Hello everyone, my name is The Ripper. I'm the maker of modules such as Levels, Better Roofs and others. And today we're gonna talk about the polygon. You probably have heard of the polygon, seen the polygon, dreamed about the polygon. But if you haven't, you should probably watch Bailwiki's tutorial first on levels. And this video we talk about the polygon specifically into the level side of things, even though it's used by Better Roofs as well. And we are gonna investigate on how the polygon is made, how it's computed, what does it do, and why is it so important. So, first thing first, let's open this random tile here. As you can see, we just have the bounding box, the orange box of the tile as the computed polygon, because there are no valid walls that the algorithm has found. And you can enable this polygon preview and this advanced control if you enable the advanced mode in Better Roofs. So since no walls were found, it just took the closest approximation it could find as the polygon for this. And now this doesn't help us. This is just a square, right? Where is the polygon? So let's see. Because we are using levels as well, we do have walls under this, but these walls are infinity infinity, the tile is infinity infinity, so because we are inside levels and we are using wall height, these walls are being ignored. So let's go and try to make this actually detect our polygon. We can remove these walls. Now let's create, we can close this tile, we can go into the level UI and just make some levels just for us to, let's use this one. Let's confirm and let's go to 0, 9. So our tile, of course, is not 0, 9, but since I've already placed it, I'm gonna also show you how to put it down manually. So let's go to our standard tile controls and let's set this to top 9, bottom 0, and we will, for the sake of it, just set the correct Better Roof mode, even though in the latest update that's not so relevant anymore, but it is still very relevant, so don't go and do weird shit. Let's go to our ground floor and place some walls. Now, since we are in the ground floor, it will automatically place it with the correct elevation. And there we go. So now, in theory, if we go here and open this, our polygon will be computed because it did found valid walls. So how is the polygon created? Before we talk about what it does, how is it created? Because it's very relevant for you to understand where it's fucking up, because the algorithm is not perfect. We are trying to teach a machine how to understand what is a room and what is not a room. So how the algorithm works is that it looks from the corners of this orange box, of the bounding box of the tile, and it looks from all 4 corners and searches for walls of the corresponding height. And basically it checks whichever walls it has sight to both points. So if I look from here, I have sight to both this point of this wall. And if I look from the other corner, I have sight to both of this. So this is repeated, and every wall that has sight on both points gets added to the valid walls. After that is done, the algorithm will then sort the walls in the correct order, if everything went well. Now, walls that are outside of the tile bounding box here will be ignored, even if they are partially outside, like say this wall. This wall will be ignored. There you go. Now, to let you understand as best as I can this looking from the sides, let me do this for you. So let's say right now I'm blocking. Let me use my other module, show walls everywhere. So right now, as you can see, I'm blocking sight from 2 of the corners. So I'm expecting that the room polygon will be fucked. Let's check it out. And it's still okay, apparently. Somehow it's still working, but we can fuck it up even more, I guess. Let's try to block all 4 corners here, assuming I block them correctly. Seems so. Still working. So as you can see, you might ask, well, if it's looking from the corners, why is it working? The short answer is there are some mitigations to avoid this issue, but it's always best practice to avoid testing your luck, because it might run out. The system is not perfect, but again, does have some mitigation. As you can see now, we are having an issue here, because our tile here, let's go to the tile perspective so we can see the bounding box and we can see the walls as well. Because a lot of these walls are visible from different angles, so it's picking up many corners that it shouldn't. So be careful on what you do. Best practice with the polygon is to usually simply try to make a closed polygon that encloses your room, like the first shape I drew before fucking it up. And I'm gonna delete these walls. So yes, if you keep it simple, usually you can go a bit complicated. Doesn't matter how big the shape is or how many walls it's made of. It's mostly that it's contiguous and stuff like that. The internal walls will be ignored most of the time successfully. So if I put like some walls here, it will not care about these walls because it's checking for collision, so it's not seeing the walls on the inside from the outside. And there are some situations where things can go wrong. For example, let me try to make it go wrong here. Let's say I have like a little outhouse or whatever in here, and let's see if it is successful or not. Okay, as you can see, the situation here is kind of a mess. That said, let's give this page a little refresh. That said, as you can see, sometimes the preview might get like calculated incorrectly because probably of the UI is my best guess. But so after you build, like, refresh or change scene before having your players go in. That said, this is one other situation which things can go weird. This is the most common way to fuck it up, because this little outhouse here and this wall are not segmented in a way that the algorithm can compute. Stuff can go wrong like this. So you may think like this, yeah, this looks fine, and yes, this looks fine and it will work in this situation. But there are other situations where if you increase the complexity, things will start to go wrong eventually. It's just a matter of time. To do this, let's see. There you go. So now we are starting to have some issues of some sort here. And usually this is a situation that will get worse as the more complex you make it. Now, a simple situation like this is very easily fixable with some clever walling. So let's remove this, let's remove the internals, we don't care about them right now. And let's do this. So now, if we do this, and we segment that section, our issue is most likely gonna be solved. Sometimes this wall here can get picked up. I'm probably sure it won't in this case, but I'm gonna show you another trick. Let's give it the old refresh. Yeah, this is not getting picked up because I'm a moron and I haven't placed the walls with the wall height. Let's go back to our levels thing. So as I was saying, this walls here, there we go. And let's see what happens. There you go. So now it's getting confused because it can see this stuff from this corner. So let's try to close off this first. Let's have a look at it now. It can still be messed up. Yes. As you can see, it's still messed up. And the reason is probably very simple, because we are seeing both points of this. So by doing like some stupid trick like this, we can fool the algorithm into skipping that, as you can see. And this way it will fix some issues. That said, there are some setups that are just too hard to compute, and there is always the option to define the polygon manually by selecting the walls. I've reached the conclusion that unfortunately there is no way to make the thing just work automatically in every situation, because even if you have like overlapping buildings, then there is no way that the corners would compute correctly. So if the polygon is just too fucked to fix by moving a couple of walls, you always have the option to define it manually. So I'm just gonna show you how it's made. So let's say I do this, and then I think I can deselect here and here, and define polygon, update, and now if everything went well, there we go, we have a perfect polygon. Okay, so let's clear this, let's clear the walls, and let's go to the next step of this video. So why is the polygon relevant? What does it do now that we know how it's computed? So let's first show you this example. We have a tile here, it's 0 to 9, and it doesn't have any walls. For this reason, it will be excluded from the regular... from this reason, the polygon won't be computed, and it will just use this square, because it cannot find any walls. So what happens? Why is it not fine? You might ask, Ripper, why do all this complicated stuff? Just always use the square. I'm just gonna show you why. So, if we go here, we can close the UI. We go on top. As you can see, we can see the token on the bottom. We are at 20 feet. We are technically, this is it's a 10, but it's fine. We can see the token on the bottom. Now, what happens if I move it here? Now I cannot see it. That's fine. There is no hole to handle the occlusion, so that's why you're not seeing the token see-through. But what happens then if I'm here? That token is invisible. And that's what the polygon is all about. This is what this does. So if you imagine, by using wall height, we give a height to our walls. So they are kind of vertical planes, right, in our room. But how do we know where is the floor? The floor is basically a wall. And where is the ceiling? That is also another wall. And this is what the polygon is. It's the wall for the ceiling and floor of a room. So you can imagine it like this. And what it does is that at elevation 0, this is the floor, and at elevation 9, this is the roof, the ceiling. Sorry. And this is why it's so important. That's why we need to calculate exactly how it looks like. So if we go back to our walls now, let me close this. We go back to our walls and we create a polygon for this. And there we go. And now we verify that it is indeed correct. There we go. And we go back. Whoop. Now the polygon is computing, but what is happening? What's happening is that this token is below you, and it is below the tile. It's being counted in a different place. But as soon as we do a little refresh to have levels recompute some stuff, usually it is fine, but sometimes you kind of need to give it a refresh. Now we are seeing the token below us, and we do not need to put a hole in here, which we would have if we were using just the rectangle as the polygon. And this is just how it works, so that's why we need it. Now it's hidden. Now, as we don't have the hole, we don't have the occlusion, but we are seeing the token that is technically below us. And this is why we need the polygon for the calculation to work. This is simply what it is. It is the floor and the ceiling. It is a solid space that blocks vision. And I guess this concludes the details on what the polygon is, how it works, and how it's made, and why it is so relevant. Because what Levels is doing is reconstructing a scene in the 3D space by doing some calculations and, of course, approximations. Some are for performance, some are because of Foundry limitations. There are many reasons why it's not perfect, but it is mostly working. So now you might ask, what is a hole? The hole does two things. First thing it does, it forces token visibility in a certain region and height. And the second thing is that it does, if you imagine it, it's very simple. It cuts a hole into the polygon. That's basically what it does. And then it does all the fancy, it's used for all the fancy occlusion and all that stuff. But on a very base level, what it does is this: it makes a hole in a polygon. It is that simple. That said, you cannot like manually make a hole in the polygon by defining the polygon and having it work. It doesn't work. But yeah, all this is to say that this polygon is very relevant, and you might think that maybe in this situation, even if we have the square, is fine, right? Like, yeah, sure, I cannot see it in here, but it's a lot of trouble having to set up all these polygons just to have this guy show in the corner. Except the issue is much bigger, because you cannot expect people to just have tiles that are exact rectangles with no like extra transparency. Most of the Forgotten Adventure assets have lots of unnecessary transparency. Like this part here is all unnecessary, and all this is unnecessary. And let's imagine you have a room that is L-shaped. If you have a room that is L-shaped, you will find yourself with something like this. Like, let's say this is the L, and this area here will all be transparent. And so, like, right now, like, yeah, I cannot compute vision here now. So that's why the polygon is so relevant and why it's so core to how all these modules work. And the polygon is somewhat relevant for better roofs as well. I will just open a small parenthesis on what it does there. It's used to compute when to show you the roof through the fog. So if you were to enable sight rays, which are in the console right here, let's enable the sight rays. This token probably doesn't have sight, but whatever. There we go. So these are the sight rays, and this is what Foundry uses to calculate vision. And the polygon inside better roofs is used to see if your sight rays, so if these points here or these points here, if they eat anything. We don't have walls, so they're not eating stuff, but if I put a wall here, there you go. And this one, so this is the radius of your vision, the 30-feet vision, and this is the line of sight. This one is used if you have global illumination, for example, or unrestricted vision range. But it's used to see if you see the room. And what it does, it looks for these points and see if these points are inside the polygon, or if they touch the polygon to be correct. And for a hide mode, it does the same thing, but it checks if the points are inside the polygon to hide a roof when you see inside. And just as a small parenthesis, the line of sight is used for better roof masking mode, and that's how it cuts through the through roofs. It's using this polygon here, and that's why you need to wall off the edges, because if you are not walling off the edges, like in this case, the points go to infinity, so they don't exist, and I cannot draw the polygon to cut off from the roofs. So yeah, after this little tangent, I hoped you enjoyed some like deeper insight onto what the polygon is, what it does, why is it so relevant, because so many times it will happen that your map seems fine, you're going around with one token and all the levels are rendering correctly, but then you realized the sight for your tokens is not calculating correctly. You see tokens on all elevation in every floor, and something went wrong. What went wrong is the polygon, because levels works anyways even if the polygon is fucked. But the token side won't, because it doesn't know where it doesn't know that there is a solid floor beneath you, and so you're seeing below you. That's simply how it works. It just works, guys. And I hope this video was very informative and very helpful for you to for the more tech savvy of you to set up your maps. But this is basically how this mystical entity, this polygon, works and why it is so important. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I very much enjoy making this module and all this stuff. You can always support me on patreon.com/theripper93. The link is in the description. And have a good day.